Hey there, good morning, good evening, good afternoon. This is Talking to Myself, the part of the day where I talk to myself about things that I was thinking the night before. Shout out, of course, to all 650 subscribers at the time of me making this video. I truly do appreciate it, as well as shout out to all of, the regular people. You got Saratoga Peanut Butter, you got Lotus Flame Candle Company, and shout out to the Olympus XA2, which now that I'm thinking about it, I probably should have had that in hand whenever I started talking, but got the Olympus XA2 in, and other than a couple quirks with it, I really like it. It's really, really nice. It's got a nice feel to it. Controls are great. I like the fact that I can control my overexposure of whatever film I have in there, or just pushing it to stop. Basically, it's going to work great with that Portra 160 and the TAKSTAR 100. Anyway, but great. It pairs well with the Nikon Light Touch AF. And the Nikon Light Touch AF is going to be undefeated in the regards to size and weight and things like that. But overall, I'm not really upset about anything. It's pretty nice. I think they're a good tandem. So I've been taking the XA2 around, shooting that a little bit. I mean, not much. I mean, I'm not just shooting random things. Like if I'm going to shoot a roll, I want it to be of stuff that actually matters. So, so far a good day with everything going on. So I've been enjoying that. Again, the Light Touch AF, man, I don't think anything's touching that for the best point and shoot film camera whatsoever. I just don't see how you can beat not only the autofocus, but just the size and the weight. I mean, you thought the XA and the XA2 were great size and weight. The Nikon Light Touch AF has a beat, man. And so that's the go-to right there. It's the go-to. It just handles its business. And it's been a joy so far. So shout out to that. Also, shout out to the boy Kadeem Booth. Hopefully I got your name right. So basically, I was having a conversation with someone yesterday over Instagram, and it's something that I've about something I mentioned in a video yesterday about if these camera companies pushed out maybe a couple more film cameras. And he had the bright idea of, man, it'd be great as if camera companies pushed out, a film camera like, let's say Fujifilm pushed out a film camera in the X Pro 3 body. And I'm telling you, man, that is a damn great idea. Like, imagine the technology to where you can still use the, viewfinder, have your guidelines for everything depending on what lens. So you have an interchangeable lens system, have the guidelines for it. Sell it, he said for maybe around like $1,600. I'm thinking like maybe around like $1,000. Autofocus wouldn't be as great if it even had autofocus, to be honest with you. Probably would, but autofocus wouldn't be that great. But like how well that body would do. And I imagine that body would do fantastic, especially with people still gushing over M6s. Imagine buying Fujifilm owners who want the M6 being able to buy a X Pro 3 film edition, X Pro 3F, be able to use their existing Fujifilm glass, be able to have some form of autofocus that's going to be far and above better than what's going on right now, and being able to shoot film and have that film experience. I wouldn't buy into it, but I know there would be a lot of people that probably would buy into it with good reason. Even more, we're just discussing about how, really there is a market for that. There's a market for film, and there's always going to be a market for film. Film's not going to be something that goes away just because digital gets really good. It's not going to happen. The Fujifilm film recipes, for as good as they are, they're never going to completely replicate film. So there's never going to be a situation where, film's just going to fall off the face of the earth because digital's got it so good. So there will always be a market for this. And once again, I'm just saying, people would pay. And that's the biggest thing, is people would pay to see this stuff. People would pay to have these things. At this point, it's kind of like, okay, well, is it going to happen? And me personally, I would love to see it happen. Now, would I buy that X Pro 3F? There's a 90% chance I wouldn't buy it, to be 100% honest with you. Unless it's like, $750 and I could sell a X100T and cash up $100 extra and be able to get it. It's not something that I think I would be in the market to purchase, but I can tell you there would be a huge market for that. That's not me over embellishing. That's me being sincere and honest. For around $700 something to get a body of that capability, and again, being able to use current XF lenses, that would really change the game. Then take into account that people would be able to use their third-party glass along with it, You know, they're 7 Artisans, they're TT Artisans, they're Mikey, they're Voigtlander, whatever and what have you. I just think that would take everything to another level. That would really put the icing on the cake. Now, I like using these, these small interchangeable, these small XF lenses, these small manual focus XF lenses. I enjoy using them. You know, it was hard for me to part with the 35 1.2 from 7 Artisans. I knew I wasn't using it as much, but it's hard for me to part knowing that I have a manual focus lens that's that small and that's fun to use. That's kind of, it kind of sucks in that regard, especially because it's just a joy. Now, if you were to bring that to the film situation, I could understand. And when people talk about, what Fujifilm needs to do, they need to make, manual focus lenses for their system. With a film camera, I could totally understand them doing that. I could see them bringing out a X Pro 3F or an X Pro F, X Pro film, and then bringing out a 35 millimeter and a 50 millimeter, just 2 manual focus lens, and maybe a 21 millimeter, bringing out 3 lenses, making them F2s or whatever, making them kind of small. But I could see that people in the autofocus realm and the manual focus realm, you price those around $300, everyone would run after those. They would gush after them, especially with the way Fujifilm's going with their lens quality and stuff like that. And making things more clinical. You could make your lenses more clinical because the film would give it enough character, and you'd have the gray and you'd have the dynamic range. It would make up for a lot of things to where, even if the formula wasn't that great, no one's really going to pick it apart because it's going to be on film. You just have a really good opportunity, I think, to not only make a lot of money, but make a lot of people happy. And I really do mean make a lot of people happy. Now, would I be pleased with just 3 manual focus lenses? No, not really, because I'd love for Fujifilm to finally just make really good autofocus lenses with great manual focus clutches and manual focus rings with hard stops and it being so well dampened that it just feels like a vintage lens. But I'm never going to get that. Fujifilm's not going to go that route. So I can kind of maybe hope that Fujifilm does something in the other way. Maybe come out with a film camera. And then alongside that, come out with some manual focus lenses. But that's a hope and a dream away. Right now I'm shooting on the X Pro 3 actually with the 18mm f2, and I'm recording into my Zoom HN1. As you can see, got this little nice guy on here trying to make sure that it sounds okay. Usually back in the day, whenever I used to work with Sennheiser and some nice Sennheiser and Shure mics, I used to always plant it on my chin. But I feel like with this kind of mic, it's gonna be a little bit cheaper. You're gonna hear a lot of the bristle of my chin. So if the volume's coming up and down and it seems a little bit more dynamic, just know that I f***ed up my compressor settings. But yeah, it just goes back to say, I think film's great. I don't think film's something that everyone needs to dive into or has to try in order to be really good at photography or to understand or appreciate photography. I feel like film is a medium that it's kind of like classic cars. There's actually I took photos of the truck, but there's a truck about 2 miles down from where I live at a shop to where the woman just keeps it in her name and just keeps it basically because it was her dad's. But she doesn't drive it except for once a year, and everything has to be rebuilt and flushed out because it just sits there. So the shop says, "Hey, ma'am, instead of doing that, just leave it here. We'll drive it. We'll keep it moving. And when you want to pick it up and take it for a cruise, you can." So it literally sits outside at a shop. It's a nice, I think, an F1. It's a beautiful, beautiful truck. But again, it just sits there, and that's kind of like what film reminds me of. It's for some people that are into classic cars, it's their everyday thing. It's the only thing they want. It's the only thing they need. They vouch by it. But all the limitations and the issues and the extra money that goes into these classic cars, even though you can buy them at a cheaper price now, especially because they're usually used and have the mileage, of course. But the money goes into it for the maintenance, the upkeep, and for everything you need for it, i.e. the film, the chemicals in order to develop everything, the printing of the prints, the getting them scanned, all this stuff. The money goes into it. But it's a great medium for getting around. It's great. It's a great way to take photos, a great way to travel. And that's just what I think about. I think about people that, still record. I'm not aging myself, but I had a buddy who up until 2016 refused to switch to digital soundboards. So eventually he switched to a Midas Pro 32 or Midas Pro 2C. Switched to a Midas Pro 2C, but he had this big ass PreSonus board, and I mean big ass PreSonus board, like probably about like 5 feet wide, man. Almost the length, about the length of a good healthy sized human being. You know, I'm talking about. If they're laid across, you know, so there he has his hi-hats, his snares, his snare up, snare down, you know, mic on top and bottom. You know, he's got his kick one, kick twos. You know, he's got his bass. You know, he's got his guitars, electrics, his vocals, his background vocals. He's got all this stuff, and he's touching it by hand, and he's doing all these things and getting more hands-on. And you know, that's great. It has a certain feeling, a certain kind of warmth. You can't replicate analog sound, period, in any live concert with a digital board. But in the same way, he moved to digital, and it just made things easier. Smaller board, being able to move around and do things quickly. You know, having everything there at your fingertips. I mean, having effects built in. And it's the same way, moving over to digital, you can't replicate the analog. You can't. You can try all you want. You can get some things that you used to like, but you can't replicate the analog. But what you can do is you can make your life per se easier. File upkeep, it's quicker to get to files, quicker to edit them, quicker turnaround time, being able to do all these things, having these effects built in. It's the benefit of digital versus analog, but at the same time, you know, it still overall kind of sucks. Just that you can't have the best of both worlds right now in this time. Maybe it'll change. Maybe they'll make a super duper easier, quicker way to develop film. Maybe they'll make a way to where digital looks exactly like film and has the exact same characteristics. But until then, it's a no-go. And so you're gonna, you know, people choose between one or the other. But at the same time, you know, there's nothing wrong with film. There's nothing wrong with digital. Shooting digital and never shooting film doesn't mean you never truly discovered photography, and doesn't mean you're missing out on anything. It's really not. You know, I've never driven a classic car that's been my own, that I bought with my own money. But I don't feel like I'm missing out on anything, because a car is a car is a car. You know, I have had a nice luxury car before, but, you know, if people don't drive a Mercedes or a Lexus or a BMW for their whole life, one that they can call their own, are they really missing out on anything if their car gets them from point A to point B? No, and if anything, they probably made a smarter decision overall. So yeah, you know, it's just two different ways to do the exact same thing. One has more benefits than the other, or one has benefits, the other one has benefits. There's nothing to really say about it. It doesn't make you anything more or anything less. But yeah, I would just love to see that. I think that'd be really cool. You know, I would get on board with manual focus Fujifilm lenses. If Fujifilm came out with an X Pro F, and I'm telling you, that would be amazing to me. I'm right now, me and Kadeem are petitioning right now. We want to hear from Fujifilm, and we want to see the X Pro F, X Pro Film, Fujifilm's flagship film camera, modern flagship film camera in the X Pro 3 body. I think that would be great. I think that would be banging, man. I really think people would appreciate that. I think that would be something that a lot of people get behind. Now listen, again, if you don't shoot film, don't even worry about it. Get yourself a nice point and shoot. But would it be tempting at the right price range? Yes. Is it going to be something that I'm going to be super duper eager to jump on? No. But I'm telling you right now, if they were able to get some great autofocus in there, if they were able to, my dog's leg is twitching because he's having a dream of he's chasing something. He's running in his sleep. If you were able to get, you know, some of this technology that you have in Fujifilm right now and be able to bring it to the film side, I just can't see how that's ever a loss. I just can't see how you guys as a company would lose money in the end. I really can't. Especially whenever anything underneath $3,000 or anything underneath $2,000 is basically going to bring a lot of people that are like, oh, should I get a Leica M6? And make them go, whoa, what do we have here? Especially because the 50mm 1.2, the 35 1.2, and the 35 1.4 even from TT Artisans. You know, you have a 25 1.8 from 7 Artisans. You have all these manual focus lenses, and not even to mention the Mitokonen, whatever you want to pronounce it, the Speedmaster, the .095. You got to remember, there are a lot of great manual focus lenses for Fujifilm X system. People can pair these lenses up and not even have to blink about, okay, I just spent $1,000 on this X Pro F. but now I got to get their amazing autofocus. No, you don't. You can go out and you can get you for the price of 2 brand new Fujifilm lenses. Let's say for the price of the 23 f2 and the 50mm f2 or 35mm f2, you can get you the Mighty Conan 35.9.95, the Bokeh Master. You can get you the 25 1.8 from 7 Artisans, and you can get the 50mm 1.2 from 7 Artisans and cover the whole gambit and be set. You can, and that's the amazing thing. You can get you the 12mm f2 from Pair Gear for like $160. You can get those 4 lenses for basically the same price as 2 autofocus XF lenses. I just don't see how that isn't a great, and there will be the people that want to buy the XF lens or already come and use their lenses, but think of how many people that would get to jump into the system. I don't know how you would go about as far as, maybe you could make it toward that rear LCD screen that still shows all your information, that shows what film simulation is. Maybe you can somehow get that to continue to work. The same technology that they're able to use, the ribbon technology, to be able to use the flipping, the back LCD screens, the ones that flip out like in the XT4. Use that same ribbon technology for a back LCD screen for whenever people pop open the back and they want to put in their film. Please don't have it to where it loads like a Leica. I still don't understand why people see that as a benefit for loading film. Anyway, I just still don't get it. Have it to where the back pops open. It's ribbon set to where that back LCD, like the one in the X Pro 3, can still be there, but this time it'll show your settings. So you're changing your knobs and everything like that, all the good whatnot. You can see your settings. Maybe even on that, it tells you your exposure. It has a light meter in there, and it's measuring your exposure. I think you can keep the same size. I think you can have it to where the battery would still fit in there on the right side of the X Pro 3 to where there's a grip, and the X Pro F. Listen, this is a concept that the more I talk about it, I had to see how long I was talking. The more I talk about it, man, this thing would actually really excite me. If Fujifilm came out with an X Pro F, man, I think they could do a great job. I really think they could knock it out of the park. You have the exact same body as the X Pro 3. The battery would fit in. You'd have enough room to put your film over. Keep everything in the same orientation. All the dials and everything. Just bring over from the X100 line the fact that the ISO dial, you pull up and it stays up and you're able to change it instead of you have to pull and hold it up. You can actually eliminate the scroll wheels on the front and the back, which will be totally fine because you can't view anything. You can eliminate, everything else except for what's up top. Keep the exposure compensation dial, keep the shutter speed, keep the ISO dial where they're at. I'm telling you, it sounds great. You could even do it to where it's single shot and continuous and manual focus. Still, keep that button where it's at. And basically the single shot can be single shot, but maybe have it to where it shoots, 5 to 8 frames a second. Shoot 5 stills a second. People want to shoot sports or want to shoot, kids, not really shooting kids, want to take photos of their kids. With this camera, they'll be able to pop, and just knock them out, I don't know. I think this is actually fun to talk about. This is actually fun to think about. Let me know what you guys think. If Fujifilm came out with an X Pro F, an X Pro film, I just see that as something that could actually work. The more I talk about it, the more I'm like, damn, if they did that, I would fucking buy that. I would sell a lot of shit in a heartbeat to buy that. I'm all in on the X Pro F. Fujifilm, I think you need to be the company that does it. I think you need to be the one that releases a brand new... don't make that many units. I'm telling you, make like 500,000 units and see if they'll sell. See if it sells out at all. I don't know. That's just me. I think that could be banging. I'm sure if the autofocus is anywhere, near maybe what the XT2 even was, oh my gosh, you will get people going crazy for it. So I'm all in. I'm for Fujifilm Fujifilm X Pro F, and I think you should be too. So let me know what you think. I'm really curious about this. You can hit me up on Instagram. You can hit me up in the comments here. I would kind of like, this is something I would literally enjoy discussing. So besides that, shout out to the Los Angeles Lakers right now, who are in an opportunity. And I know you guys don't listen to a lot of this shit at the end, so this is just me talking. Shout out to the Los Angeles Lakers, though, who are in an opportunity now to where if they win out, they've got 3 remaining games. I believe their games are against the Houston Rockets tonight, where LeBron James will return as they unveil the banner, as well as they're going to be playing the New Orleans Pelicans, and I can't remember, they're playing one other team. These games are kind of like, they should be able to win. I don't think it's Memphis, but there's a chance it's the Hornets. If the Los Angeles Lakers win out, they have a chance to where if Portland goes 1-2 for the rest of the year, they would jump Portland. And I believe if Dallas goes 1-2 for the rest of the year, they have a chance to jump Dallas. I think they would jump them both. Unless those teams win 2 out of the next 3 games, they would jump both of them to the 5 seed. Now, I think the Lakers are set either way they go. If you're the 5 seed, you get to play Denver in the first round. You're gonna probably knock out Denver. Most likely, you're going to be the lowest seed, so you're going to get to go against Utah. You're going to be able to knock out Utah, and the most likely then you're going to go up against whoever comes out of the Phoenix Suns and the Clippers, or sorry, not the Phoenix Suns and the Clippers, out of probably the Warriors and the Clippers. That's just me saying I really do think. Actually, Portland, the Warriors, or Clippers. Man, Portland's really damn good. I could see them make it the Western Conference Finals. But if you're in the 6th seed, you get to play the Clippers and just get that one out of the way. You get to win and just, move on. And then from there, it's the same thing. You're probably going to be, you're the lowest seed. You're probably going to be playing Utah. And then again, out of Portland, out of Phoenix, out of Golden State. Those are the teams that I think can move on. And then if you're the 7th seed, boom, same thing again. You're going to win the play-in game. You're going to knock out Phoenix immediately. You're going to, again, get to go to Utah. You're going to knock out Utah, and then you're playing just basically whoever beats the Clippers. I just, it's gonna be great. I'm really proud of Lakers for pulling through. I think this is classic. This is classic, as Bill Simmons would say, who I used to rock with a lot, but now I just rock with Shea Serrano. This is classic. Nobody believes in us. Everybody's counting us out. Championship team. This has 2 Pete written all over it. Even more, shout out also to the Los Angeles Dodgers for getting themselves a win. I think we'll start turning it around. Really get back on track. We're getting people in the bullpen back, which has been a really big hurt. Hopefully Gatterall will come back. Or if he already hasn't. I know Joe Kelly is supposed to be back right now. Haven't been able to watch games as much as usual because I live here in South Texas. We're starting to churn it together. And again, shout out to the Detroit Lions for not being the worst, the laughing stock of the offseason in the NFC North. Again, you, Green Bay Packers. Shout out to Aaron Rodgers. I'm pulling for Aaron Rodgers to the Denver Broncos so hard. I can't stand Denver, but I would love to see him and Patrick, Jebediah, Lazarus Mahomes go up against each other twice a year. Reckham Tech, you guys know what it is from West Texas. So shout out to all those people and shout out to all you guys. I really appreciate you, and my dog appreciates you too. So have a good one.